Kay, a well-known gay actor, once said, "We should indeed keep calm in the face of difference and live our lives in a state of inclusion and wonder at the diversity of humanity." Takei makes a valid point. Every human being is unique in some way. Humans should try to be open, accepting of another's differences, and then we can become accepting and inclusive of all humans. This is easier said than done. Many people have a hard time even acknowledging the fact that people are different from them and that those people are comfortable standing out from the crowd. The LGBT community is one of the larger groups of people society has a hard time accepting. LGBT stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. Sometimes the movement is also referred to as the LGBTQ plus movement, which just makes the community a bit more inclusive of people identifying with an alternative gender and or sexuality. LGBT members face harassment, exclusion, and discrimination sometimes daily. The history of the LGBT rights was a long and drawn-out process with many violent events marking the movement's progress. And despite the loud resistance towards the LGBT movement, they have made many breakthroughs. The past few years have been very eventful for the LGBT movement. On June 26, 2015, same-sex marriage was legalized in all 50 states, which is one of the main goals of the LGBT movement. This Supreme Court decision is a huge milestone in the LGBT movement, which has been celebrated since it has passed. But not everything that has happened has been good in the LGBT community. On June 12, 2016, Omar Matan killed 49 people and wounded 53 others at the Pulse nightclub in Florida, U.S. This shooting is the most tragic public shooting in U.S. history. The LGBT movement has made a lot of progress, but there is still much work to be done. Currently, the big issues in the LGBT movement involve transgender people. Transgender, sometimes shortened to trans, is an umbrella term used to describe people with a wide range of identities, including transsexual people, cross-dressers, people identify as a third gender, and other of those whose appearance and characteristics are perceived as a gender atypical and whose sense of own gender is different to the sex that they were assigned at birth. Trans people have been trying to spread awareness of their existence and educate others on what it means to be transgender. Hate crimes are more common with trans people than any other LGBT members. Those hate crimes could end in a trans person's death or suicide. A U.S. study found that gay and lesbian young people are 4 more times more likely to contemplate or attempt suicide compared with the general population, while trans youth are 10 times more likely to do so. The LGBT community is trying to spread awareness and educate people so trans people can live in a more accepting world. People from the LGBT community have less access to healthcare services, and even if they did have access to healthcare, they don't have the money for those services. LGBT members might not utilize healthcare services because of the stigma centered around those with a different sexual orientation or gender identity than that is expected from them. These stigmas have made LGBT individuals unwilling to seek help for their health in fear of rejection or added stress. Sometimes identifying with and seeking help from the LGBT community adds stress to their personal lives, while for some people seeking help from community-specific locations helps them cope with their identity. Regardless, stigmas can cause many health-related problems for people in the LGBT community, meaning they need access to these healthcare services more than most people. The 3 types of stigmas, anticipated stigma, internalized stigma, and enacted stigma, have been used towards members of the LGBT community. Transgender people have experienced these stigmas more than any other member of the community while seeking healthcare. In one article, A Right to Marry, Same-Sex Marriage and Constitutional Law by Martha Nussbaum discusses the objections people have with same-sex marriage and provides a counter-argument for the position. First, religious groups do not have to partake in same-sex marriage. Their actions are separate from the government's actions. Therefore, a religious group does not have to recognize a same-sex marriage as valid. Second, same-sex couples cannot procreate, but other marriage unions are made where couples do not or cannot have children. Third, if a same-sex couple does end up raising children, people fear the children will not be able to reach their full potential. But studies have shown that loving 2-parent households are the best circumstances for a child to become successful. Fourth, people fear they will be forced to approve same-sex marriage, but no one must do that. The best policy for this argument is to live and let live, because the government must be inclusive of minority rights. Fifth, people believe same-sex marriage threatens traditional marriage, but there are many more pressing issues that can negatively affect a marriage. After examining all the arguments, the article concludes disgust is the main reason behind people's opposition to same-sex marriage. The LGBT movement has been around for a long time and has seen many hardships, but has also come a long way. Educating people on the different sexualities and gender identities is a big mission of the LGBT movement. Acceptance of everyone, no matter how old they are, how they look, or what they identify as, is a big part of the LGBT community. Most people associate LGBT movement with the legalization of same-sex marriage, and for a long time that was the biggest motivation of the movement, but same-sex marriage has been legalized despite all the arguments and debates on the topic. The LGBT movement and community needs to now focus on helping society get used to LGBT members being a normal part of society.